I actually have a question for you, by the way. Obviously, since your team didn't go to MSI, there was no story about what would Rogue have done, blah, blah, blah. Dude, I actually think that it would, like, if I could have picked a team, I would actually have preferred, of all the teams in Europe, that Rogue went. And one of the reasons why is, I actually think Inspired was underrated last split, because they gave MVP to Reckless, right? Listen, he had a very good season as well. It's a new team, great storylines. He's been, but I thought Inspired should have been the MVP last season. Like, dude, some of the stuff he was doing was like, no European jungler was doing this stuff. Like, he actually seemed to actually have like almost like Korean understanding of what to do on the map at times.
I mean, the MVP thing was kind of rigged because there's like big hype around me joining Rogue and I'm weak side, very good, blah, blah, blah. But the thing is, most of the votes for MVP were either split between me and Inspired. So when you have to pick someone from Rogue, they were kind of like split in two. And then the third guy won with Reckless because there's like from G2, the obvious choice was him, you know? So like, there was everything got pulled into him, while for us it kind of got like split in between us. But yeah, I mean, our bane has always been, or like in the finals, has been the fact that we're kind of throwing games in the mid game. But we had really big early leads every game because of Inspired. Because I felt like he was always on top of the game, and there was always like I felt like he always knew what he needs to do to take over the game and how to fuck the enemy jungler or like their whole team, pretty much. And I felt like I don't know if he would have done better than Mad at MSI, but the fact that our early games have always been consistently better than most of the time everyone else would have been a big discussion factor, I guess, when you think about how we would have done against the MSI teams, because maybe we would snowball better against them because they have different play styles and stuff. But yeah, it's a bit sad that it didn't happen, but Inspired will get other chances at Worlds to shit on Korean and Chinese junglers, I guess.
There we go.
So I really, it's interesting because when we were talking to Lustboy, 100 Thieves did something very interesting, which I thought was very good this last week, which is that they played like a Ziggs Senna, like a fasting Senna with Huhi on Ziggs, and that was kind of a unique pick, except for some kind of challenger or like amateur level games. And you guys did something very interesting this last week, which is to play Fiddlesticks, which is exactly the same. You guys are the only like tier 1 team that has been playing Fiddlesticks all over the world, basically. So what started this? Because you did go 1-1 this week. I don't think it was, how can I put this? The Fiddlesticks saved your ass from a weak mid game, like you just said in your first game of the week, and then you guys had a very fun game to watch against G2. Like, I enjoyed both of your games a lot this week. You probably didn't, because they were kind of heart attacks for you, I imagine.
Yeah, they're kind of shit.
But what was the reasoning behind picking Fiddlesticks when really no one else is running with this pick right now? And you guys built compositions around Fiddlesticks, whether it was you playing Nocturne and having kind of like the Fiddlesticks Crowstorm engage, which is very confusing to play against, or you were playing Kennen and you guys were like this AoE Wombo combo composition.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the Kennen thing worked so well, because usually when you have stuff like Fiddlesticks, you kind of want him to be the sole AP, so they cannot really itemize against him, so his impact is massive because he's such a strong team fighter. And I think it mostly kind of started as a niche pick or like a comfort pick for him, because he's always so confident with his jungle matchups. Because I feel like in the past, even with Jankos, there was always this discussion, you know, you want to have a good jungle matchup and you want to pick this and ban this and blah, blah, blah. But this guy doesn't really care. And it's kind of surprising to me that I feel like he's willing to play anything into anything, even if it's like good or bad, just because he knows how to dodge the matchup or like change path and kind of be really versatile and kind of just dodge the matchup if it's really bad. And also for us, we really like playing these execution comps where we like to pull the trigger whenever it's like a big power spike for us, and he's really comfortable at doing that. So I mean, I kind of went all over the place, but back to my previous points, he likes to let jungle drop a lot. And usually when you let jungle get dropped, you kind of get pinched even like 8 or 10 bans in total, depending on how scrims are, because things get pretty wild there. And then at one point he's like, yeah, I'll just play Fiddlesticks here. And then it's kind of started working, and that coupled with the fact that he doesn't really care about matchups, because right now it's also the meta is not really so volatile early that you're just like, okay, who gets prio? Bot? Okay, well, I will start top, I go bot, and I get crap from there, and then you pretty much dodge the jungle matchup for the first 3 minutes and a half of the game. And also on top of that, it's kind of full clear meta where every jungler that can clear the jungle by like 3:15 and be there when crap spawns is good, you know. So Fiddlesticks is good because this champ just does 2 camps at the same time for most of the game.
With no leash too.
Yeah, and also no leash is a really big thing for the stability of the lanes. And yeah, pretty much just all of these in combined just made him kind of a really strong pick. I also feel like maybe teams are not so punishing with level 1s as they used to be, because I feel like in Spring Split, level 1s were a bit spicy in EU. I'm not sure about the rest of the world, but right now I feel like maybe if teams want to invade and stuff, you can disrupt Fiddlesticks and stuff like this. But I'm not so sure. I mean, there's probably counterplay where you can just split map and stuff and get into more like deeper things. But yeah, it just kind of started as a comfort pick for him. And that coupled with the fact that we like these execution comps where we spike really hard in mid game and fights around like neutral objectives are really good for us. That's kind of how it started.
I mean, it seems like it's a pretty big advantage for you as a team with Rogue, because one thing that you've been succeeding with has been creating early advantages and really strong macro play this year. So you're constantly at objectives. So that's why I was really enjoying seeing the game you played on Nocturne versus Misfits, because that is incredibly difficult for the team to play against, because once you pop Nocturne ult, it becomes very hard to figure out where like the timing and location of Fiddlesticks and where he's going to come from. You guys still almost lost that game, but I think that was because of your execution, not because the comp was bad, because your first few team fights were amazing, and also basically won the last team fight even when they had Infernal Soul and crushed them. So I think it shows the power of the strategy that you guys had, even if the execution wasn't always flawless.
Yeah, I mean, these comps, I feel like the pattern with them is that we enjoy having these like comps that are maybe not so super strong late game, because in the Misfits game we kind of get outscaled in the sense that they start outranging us and then they start winning sides 1v1. But all these comps, we kind of have the option to just take Soul at like 20 minutes or 25 minutes and just kind of rush Drakes. And we dropped the ball against Misfits when I think we got caught one time on top, and it just screwed up the whole tempo and the whole setup for the Drake. And then when you lose the option to take Soul at 25 minutes and it gets pushed another like 10 minutes, that's when your comp kind of starts falling behind, because you don't have this pressure to just get fights, because if they get a Drake and they get to ignore you for another 10 minutes and start outscaling you, that's kind of when everything goes bad. But that's also kind of like a nice thing, because now when you have these early game comps, if you execute them properly, they really take over the game.
You say it outscaled, but it was one great fiddle ult that also won you the game. I mean, the damage of that champion, if you get the good engagement late game, is still absolutely insane.
Yeah, but the thing is, at that point, since our comp wants to fight mostly around like objective setups and stuff like this, the fact is that these comps kind of require for you to be there first to kind of set up the area where you want to fight.
Sure.
But if you start getting like outranged, then you start losing priors on side, and that's kind of like they get the setup first, and you kind of lose all your advantage, because we have this like such a big snowball coming from early game, where it kind of guarantees that, or it should guarantee that we're always there to make the setup for the fight. So it makes it impossible for them to like face check and regain control of the area. But when you like drop the ball like that and you're not able to get the control first, I think that's kind of where our comp, even against G2, went bad. Because against G2 as well, I heard some people saying, yeah, we gave up Infernal Soul for free. But in reality, there is absolutely no way we can walk into there anymore, because
I think that ignores literally everything that happened in the early game that set that one up, which is...
Sounds like what Reddit does.
Yeah, I mean, it's like our comp is just kind of like you have like a huge rocket launcher that has only one ammo, you know, and you have to shoot it and reload for 5 minutes. And the thing is, when you want to get like control, you can't really control with just like one rocket launcher. You need like different guns to just walk in and take control. And that's what G2 have. When you walk over Orianna Ball, if you can't start the fight instantly, you're just going to lose because they don't allow you to get the setup anymore, you know? And yeah, that's kind of what happened against Misfits in G2 as well. We just kind of stopped the snowball and stopped being able to be first on objectives because we're either like bad on tempo or behind in gold and pressure. And that's when we kind of started falling behind a bit.
Well, I think the G2 game was just a weird game that required significant adaptation because honestly, like, I think people will say that, like, you might feel that was a bad game, and it kind of did end up being bad by the end. But honestly, the first like 10 minutes of that game are fascinating from a macro perspective because I feel like a lot of really good counterplay was happening overall to the lane situation. You know, the fact that G2 responded extremely well to the deaths that happened, you know, with the double kill you guys got in bot lane to start things off. And then it became a whole team effort on both sides to like fix that problem in the bot lane. So it ended up as being quite interesting from my perspective.
Yeah, I mean, both teams had really big win conditions about the bot lane situation. I felt like the first time Rumble killed Kalista was not that massive because the wave state was fine. Wave got bounced. Yeah, and then it's just 300 gold that you gave up. I feel like the biggest macro mistake that we did was when we died on the slow push back. And that's kind of when people said, oh, Inspire got out jungled, he was invisible and stuff. But the thing is, when support dies like that and they're just 3v1 on your tower and they're threatening dive on every wave, like Inspire cannot just come there and just look at them and be like, hey guys, I'm helping. He has to. You kind of bot lane.
He was doing Herald. He was playing cross map at that point.
Yeah, the thing is, bot lane dug their own hole because they died on the bounce back. Otherwise, like Inspired was there to like cover them and help them succeed. You know, it's just kind of like different win conditions that are always changing based on like the mistakes that happen in the game. You know, because that's kind of like the big lose condition that we had that game. Like the biggest reason we lost, I think, was the fact that we died on the bounce back before like Fiddlesticks got activated because he's just constantly forced to save the map that is on fire instead of having something stable where he can set up something.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or, you know, be a pleb and don't.